Is it an epic or epic failure? The Big Review. Movies, games, and TV in focus.
Pulse95. We are going to be reviewing the long-awaited Jungle Cruise movie that was delayed for quite a while since last year, and it's just one of the many movies that were delayed, whether it's from Disney, Warner Brothers, Sony, etc. So the movie is obviously a fantasy adventure film based on the same ride in Walt Disney's theme parks, and it stars none other than The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and also Emily Blunt, and my favorite in the movie, Jack Whitehall and Jesse Plemons. I did not see those two coming. I did not see any of the trailers for obvious reasons. Even though the plot of the movie is very straightforward, it basically follows Emily Blunt's character and Jack Whitehall and The Rock as they venture into the Amazon looking for a magical tree that has some very interesting properties, some kind of call it medicinal or even super powerful kind of properties, in hopes of perhaps, just enlightening the world with his presence and doing some great and amazing things. But of course, there has to be an enemy out there out to get them, played by none other than Jesse Plemons, who I did not see that one coming. I'm so used to him being the creepy big bad, but to see him in a sort of a comical way, I really enjoyed that.
I love this actor so much. I personally grew to like him from the Breaking Bad series, and I like that he's now getting to be in these big blockbuster movies. He plays like this over-the-top German general.
German prince.
Yes. And I think, he's trying to acquire this plant for political gain, for his empire, but then we see that he has a little bit more of a selfish motivation to it as well. When it comes to the Jungle Cruise itself, a lot of it is set in the Amazon. I really did like the vibrant colors, the world building. They don't spend too much in the same areas, which is great. It's almost like reminiscent of the actual theme park itself, and trying to show you the best parts of a jungle. And there's always danger around the corner. So the movie does have this well-paced sort of tension that comes with it. And I think the best compliment here is Emily Blunt and The Rock's really great electric chemistry. They work really well together.
Oh, yeah.
It almost reminds me of The Mummy. I feel like there's some elements here that are from The Mummy that's in this movie, and that's why it works so well.
Funny thing is, I was telling my friend when I was watching it that it's very reminiscent of early 2000 Disney adventure movies.
Yeah.
Which is why it's like I went in expecting disappointment, because I'm like, it's not going to be that interesting of a movie. But it somehow just was very nostalgic, just a feeling of adventure and the way it flows. And you might be, as an adult, you'd be like, but if the dialogue did not feel that enriching. But I'm like, if you think about the movie itself, if you think about what it's trying to offer and who it is directed towards, because it's going for a big group of people. It's not only going for perhaps adults, going for young adults and teenagers and children. And that is a very hard thing to basically hit the mark. You're trying to be as universal as possible.
Yeah. So
they have to keep the dialogue basic, but also witty, but also a very basic version of witty.
We'll continue our review of A Jungle Cruise. We'd love if you guys join in and share your personal critiques. Text us 4215 in Slaughter Do. We also have our live stream up on our YouTube. Let's take a short break and let's continue our extensive review of Disney's Jungle Cruise right here on the Afternoon Cut.
Pulse95.
So far, Disney has been trying to get that next big commercial success from a theme park adaptation. Things like Pirates of the Caribbean was their biggest hit. And ever since then, they've been doing things like Haunted Mansion, Tomorrowland.
Haunted Mansion came first.
It came before.
Before that.
Tomorrowland came later, I think, in the 2010s. And now we have A Jungle Cruise. So far, we've been giving it some good points, but it's time to maybe see where some of the cracks would show in a movie like this? What do you think, Aisha?
I'd say the CGI was kind of lacking, especially coming from a Disney movie. You think that they'd have the budget to have a really good CGI scenes, mostly the CGI animals, etc. At the beginning, it was kind of okay. I was like, not bad, but then eventually, for example, the leopard, she did not look...
A little bit distracting.
A little bit distracting. It felt very much CGI-ish. Like, you'd be like, yeah, that's definitely CGI. I know that everybody can tell something, whether something is CGI or not, but you guys know what I mean. When you look at an animal or a creature or whatever that was created by CGI and you go like, that just feels very out of place. That is exactly what I felt towards some elements of the movie when it comes to CGI. If you compare it, for example, to Pirates of the Caribbean and the villains there, I mean, those were beautiful. Even
they stood out, yeah.
They stood out. They felt very real despite being CGI. However, over here, they kind of were jarring, to say the least.
We try not to spoil the movie for you guys, but halfway through the film, we get introduced to yet another group of antagonists, and this is where the story somewhat loses me a bit, because I feel that it starts to stretch itself a little too thin. I feel having two different antagonists in the film makes it a bit overbearing. I
feel like that was expected, though, because at the very beginning of the movie, it was hinted that this group of people are gonna be appearing sooner or later, that they're gonna be part of this movie. So I disagree with you with that point. But I do understand what you mean by the plot stretching itself thin, because they did lose me with some small plot holes here and there. Could be because I wasn't fully paying attention at some point, but I think that it was there were some tiny issues here and there. But again, I take this movie for what it is and for what it has done and for who it is intended for. I feel like it did a good job, all in all, to be honest. Because again, I say what I said earlier. This movie is intended for, it's a family...
A wide appeal, basically.
A wide appeal. It's a family movie. And for that, it's hit a lot of marks already.
Yeah, but it does compromise by being somewhat generic at some points.
But do you not expect that out of this sort of movie?
It's a Disney action adventure blockbuster.
Yeah.
Of course, if you've seen enough of these, some parts of it start to feel formulaic. Is that a bad thing? No. Will you have a good time watching this? I believe so. If you take some of if you take some of your younger family members, some of your friends, you will definitely have a good time. Mm-hmm. So, final verdict for Jungle Cruise?
Honestly, I say the cast carried this movie, and I do say that. Actually, I believe that despite it being formulaic, there were parts of it that steered away from the typical family Disney movie formula. And I feel that is what made it a little bit better, a little bit more special. And the reason why I was not as disappointed as I thought I would be while watching it. Because like I said, my expectations were very low. I wouldn't say it's the sort of movie that I'd be like, yes, this is my favorite movie ever. I loved it so much. But it did a good job nonetheless, which is why I'm in between 7 and 8. Because again, I'm it did its job. But it's not a movie for me. I would watch it. I take my little cousins with me. You guys can take your family members and watch it. But maybe it's a sort of movie you might watch randomly, a couple of years. You go hey, have you checked out Jungle Cruise? And they say, no, we haven't. Okay, let's sit together and watch it.
Yeah.
But it's not a serious view. So I'm between, let's say, 7.5.
Okay, for me, Jungle Cruise has a lot of great action to it, comedy, great cast members. Mm-hmm. But does it have that thunder in a bottle moment like the Pirates of the Caribbean?
No.
Not quite. And so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Well, there you go, guys. That is our conclusive review of Jungle Cruise by Disney. The cast carried it, but it might be a little bit too lacking in some parts of the movie. We're going to be taking a short break. We've got these sports headlines coming up. Then we're going to talk about a very uncanny, basically collaboration, to say the least, and that is between Travis Scott and A24, coming up next right here on the Afternoon Karak.
If you liked this episode of Afternoon Karak, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.